Okay, verses 13 through 18. It says, brothers and sisters, we do not want you to be uninformed about those who sleep in death, so that you do not grieve like the rest of mankind who have no hope. For we believe that Jesus died and rose again, and so we believe that God will bring with Jesus those who have fallen asleep in him. According to the Lord's word, we tell you that we who are still alive, who are left until the coming of the Lord, will certainly not precede those who have fallen asleep. For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet call of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. After that, we who are still alive and are left will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so we will be with the Lord forever. Therefore, encourage one another with these words. Okay? Eschatology, or the study of last things, has been a theme throughout this letter. Okay? So keep your finger here and let's go back. Look at chapter 1, verse 10. So, waiting for his Son from heaven, whom he raised from the dead. So, Paul alludes to the coming of Jesus, the second coming. All right? Next one, chapter 2, verse 12. Chapter 2, verse 16. And verse 19, chapter 2, verse 19. And chapter 3, verse 13. So, this whole idea of last things, eschatology, coming of Jesus, coming again of Jesus, it's been kind of this little thread where he's just drop little hints. And now all of a sudden he's going to talk about it in some pretty clear terminology and going into chapter 5. Last things should be both a motivation for the Christian and a comfort for the Christian. A motivation and a comfort. So, how is the coming of Jesus a motivation for us? To live for him, holiness. Pursue exactly what he's been talking about. That we would live holy lives, being sanctified, growing in love. And he's been talking about the way we live our lives, and he's going to talk about that again in chapter 5. And kind of in between that, he drops this chunk about eschatology. And it fits both of those things. It fits motivation for holy living, but also how is the second coming of Christ a comfort to us? Some of you have already alluded to some of it. Pain will be over, okay? Okay, we'll be with him, have new bodies. Yep. Okay, yep. Live forever with him. Satan will be no more. That's right. Sin in us will be no more, right? Okay, well, in these verses, it seems that Paul had done some teaching about Christ's resurrection and his coming again, but the Thessalonian Christians did not understand the implications of that teaching. The Thessalonians didn't understand what the resurrection of Christ meant for believers who had already died. And there are a lot of different theories as to kind of what that looked like in Thessalonica. Maybe they thought that those who died before Jesus came again were lost, that they didn't get to participate in the promises of heaven and so forth. Maybe there was just confusion. We don't know exactly. But obviously, they did not have clear thinking. They didn't really understand the implications of what Paul had shared with them while he was there. And Paul says that understanding the coming of Christ and the resurrection should help us to grieve differently than those who do not have that hope. Verse 14 says that when Jesus comes again, he will bring with him those believers who have died. How can he do that? For instance, a believer dies, you go to the funeral home, they're in a casket, you watch as that casket gets put in the ground. How can Jesus bring them with him? So, when we die, our spirit goes to be with Christ. And he says in these verses, now these are just, well, how many verses is this? Through 18. 13 through 18. What is that, 5 verses, 6 verses? So, this is just 6 verses on eschatology. So there are other details about eschatology you can find in other places. But when Jesus comes, certain things will happen. First of all, we are told that there will be a loud command. A loud command. If somebody wants to turn to John chapter 5, verses 25 through 29, and read that for us. So, they will hear the voice of the Son of God, the Son of Man. And it's a loud command. What do you think that, we don't know, but we can have some fun guessing, okay? What do you think that command is? Rise. Maybe like he did tomb of Lazarus. Come forth. Right? Who knows? But it's going to be a loud command. It's not going to be a suggestion. It's going to be a command. We're also told that it's accompanied by the voice of the archangel. Archangels are the highest heavenly authorities, and so this probably means that the most authoritative of heavenly creatures announces the coming of Jesus. A trumpet blares. What was the significance of trumpets blaring throughout the Bible? And there are several things that they indicated. So let's see. I have several listed here. So to call the nation of Israel for festivals, for sacrifices, for the Day of Atonement, the giving of the law. So it's probably, we don't know, could be a bunch of those things that are kind of inferred here. It could be, it could just be the idea that God is calling all of his people together. But there's going to be a trumpet blast, loud trumpet blast. Then we're told that the dead in Christ will rise first, before those living are gathered. So if Jesus is bringing with him those who have fallen asleep in him, what's being raised? Yeah, what part of them? Just the body, right? Spirit's gone. Spirit's gone. Spirit's been with Christ. This is just the bodily resurrection and a transformation that takes place. Just their physical bodies. And then it says, those of us who are still alive, we will be caught up with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And then it says, so we will be with the Lord forever. Yeah. So encourage one another with these words. Not only should it encourage those who are grieving, but this should also encourage each and every one of us to holy living.